In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hello, Carl Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast. How are you this morning? How was your weekend? We have loads of footage to bring you, pictures and video from people's weekends here in Portugal. And I can hear quite a loud buzz in the studio. There's always something new, isn't there, going on? There's so many variables with this technology that we're using here. So I hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to a great new week. And let's get started with... actually, I'm going to go straight to the Portugal... or learn about Portugal quiz of the day. Got a nice question for you. We're into our third week already of the Learn About Portugal quiz of the day for today. Well, we're into a new month, aren't we? Since I last saw you, we've started a new month. It is the 3rd of July, 2023. And what a world we're living in at the moment. I've got to say, I'm saddened to see what's going on in France right now. Disturbed, actually, by what I'm seeing on the screens. And I'm sure there will be people will be sharing their views of what's going on over there in the chat this morning, as well as dad jokes. T-Duck taking a well-earned break. Immediately it looks like Pete has filled the dad joke vacuum, the DJV, with some corkers. The old ones are the oldest, Pete. I'm trying to share my screen here now. It's like I've taken a couple of days off and I've forgotten how to do it already. Here we go. That's how you do it, Carl. Well done. Sharing the screen then, the Learn About Portugal quiz for the 3rd of July, 2023. And I'll bring it onto the screen for you now. It is to do with the all-important tourism industry of Portugal, of course. And there are a number of hotels here in Portugal, but how many exactly? And you can see that somebody enjoying themselves in a hotel there. Let me ask you, actually, before I ask the question directly about hotels here in Portugal, what's your favorite hotel, your favorite place to stay that you have stayed at in Portugal? Or if you're making your way here, what's your favorite hotel that you have down as a treat, as a place to stay when you finally get here? Do let me know. That'll be interesting because there are some fabulous hotels here in Portugal, and more it would seem. And we're starting the new week and the new month with a question from Portugal's all-important tourism industry, measured by revenue. We're using that metric. How many? Oh, hold on a minute. Measured by revenue, the hotel industry in Portugal is estimated at 4.2 billion euros for this year, 2023. Our question is, how many hotels are there in Portugal who are generating that income and putting the country 9th out of 27 in Europe? Please add your answers below it. Poll style. Is it 457? Is it 4,570? Or is it 45,700 hotel establishments here in Portugal, which I believe they do earn, but and they earn via their staff, of course. And I was interested to see that there are 13.5 staff on average at each Portuguese hotel. That's quite an industry, isn't it? When you multiply it by the right number there, 4,570, or 45,700. You do let us know what's your favorite hotel in Portugal or where you plan to stay in the future. And which country in Europe do you think tops the revenue table? Now, judging by Alan's guess already there, I should have put the EU and not Europe, Because of course they're not the same thing, are they? And it feels like increasingly so. We're being reminded of that. Not least this morning at 9:30 when Tig James joins us from British in Portugal. She made a great debut, didn't she, when she joined us last time? She said, "I saw it, Carl. Your mouth was open with shock at times during what I had to say." You're absolutely right there, Tig. And she'll be back with an update for post-Brexit Brits at 9:30, and at 9 we have our old buddy. Stop it, you idiot! We've got James the Slug Holley joining us, American in Portugal, with his recollections, his ongoing recollections of what it's like to be here in Portugal from well, I suppose from a human perspective, but through his American filter, because it's difficult for him not to do that, or he might resent that. He might think he can shake off his American filter very easily. Can we do that? Can we stop seeing things through our native lens, I wonder? Do let me know in the chat this morning, and we'll get into sharing a few of the lovely clips and footage. I think what I'm going to do this morning is show you some stills first. Or where have they all gone? This is a still from video. I think to follow from all of these wonderful folks. That's a scene from northern Portugal at the weekend. That is Bob, who had a fabulous weekend and sent me some lovely video this morning. That is the Santuario de Senhora de Socorro in La Bruja. There's an amazing energy there in solitude and in celebration. So I think you've been returning to this lovely place here, and it looks as though you've had a fantastic time with the grandkids who are visiting Portugal as well. So I'm so glad for you, Bob and Viv up there in the north. We've got further news from the north in the form of Maria's from Portugal do. Victor, I'm just trying to think how to say this. I was going to use the phrase better half. I think that's okay, isn't it? He'd probably agree with me on that. So the Rooster Talks conversation group in European Portuguese. This will be fun. Maria's lovely, and she's teaching you how to speak Portuguese. And the first session will be how to cope in a restaurant. So there is the curriculum being prepared for this wonderful experience of being able to learn Portuguese with Maria from Portugal do. I will continue to share that with you and keep you abreast of information. Probably put something in the Learn About Portugal language resources. Oh, who's this? It's Philomena, who sent us some brilliant video from the weekend. She remained busy with her dance troupe. Look at them there, aren't they fabulous? They've really got the best use out of those costumes at the Marchas Populares in Miranda de Corvo, and I think they were busy at the weekend again. And we've got some lovely video footage from Philomena. I don't know what to call this particular sport. It should be in the Portuguese Olympics. It is the carrying of the water in an urn on top of your head. And there are some ladies competing who we'll see in just a moment. So there's some still action. I think it's time for us to move to the video action now, connected with the stills you've just seen. So yeah, do let me know how you're doing. How was your weekend? Do let us know in the chat. Maybe we should take a quick look there now and see who's in. Andy Klein, I see. Capricorn 12, Chris. We've got Mr. S. I'm not sure what you mean, Mr. S, by your comments this morning. Coach Turner's in. I think we've got a quickie from Coach Turner. And has he really managed to give us a God Squad tip of the day whilst on the move and enjoying himself in France? In Le Mans? He stayed safe. I've checked in with him. Ancient Mariner, our buddy, who until 3 months, I'm just sending him a message this morning to make sure he's okay as well. But yeah, as I say, really shocked to see what's going on in France at the moment. Coach Turner, however, quite unruffled and untroubled out of the towns and cities of France, stopping for a lunch by the Seine in the Porsche 968, I think it says on the back there. The top down and having a spot of lunch by the River Seine there in France. How lovely. Okay, back to the chat then before we play some of that video, before James joins us at 9 and Tig joins us at 9:30. And it is a Bon Dia Gumpers from Coach Turner. We're currently in a delightful harbour town on the Normandy coast. That's good going, Coach. Called Fécamp. Heading back to Blighty today via the tunnel. We've had a wonderful few days, which will be repeated in Le Mans. So here we go with the God Squad tip of the day. And actually, if I go to the classroom area in our Learn About Portugal repository collection of courses and information, and I scroll down for you, you'll see exactly what he's talking about here. and how this all fits in. You see there, if I click on join us, it's the God Squad Gentle Fitness for Bon Viveurs, and it's really taking shape in there. Last week, we covered the old ground of the introduction, the introduction from the coach, the fitness levels, the basic fitness levels, the 3 basic principles, and we started with walking, didn't we? Now, did I play the walking video? And is it time to play walking part 2 technique? We shall see a bit later on. There it is right there. So all the videos that used to be on YouTube, and I think, to be fair, were quite hard to find, are now in one convenient and easy to find place over at Learn About Portugal, taking shape nicely, as I'm hoping to do. My first week of shaping up went fairly well. I learned some things which I might talk about with James that were a bit of a surprise to me, but I've certainly become more mindful about what I'm eating. I've prepared a space in which to exercise. I was in the sea 3 times last week. I love going with my daughter, who is who's of the 3 children here, she seems to like going in to see the most. She's a little mermaid, and merman me and mermaid her in the sea 3 times at the end of the day last week. So I really yet to get into the exercise routine, which I pledged to do this week. God Squad tip of the day from the coach. Then walking around a motor circuit is always going to take a lot of steps. But when traveling, it's often difficult to fit in exercise. If you only have 10 minutes, take a quick walk. Walk faster than you normally would until you start puffing a bit, then back off a little, but still enough to maintain that effort. Who doesn't like a bit of heavy breathing first thing in the morning? Yes, absolutely. Cheers, Coach Taylor, and thanks for fitting us in despite being on the road. Great effort. Alan's in. Kate Alamigo. Buenas amigos. Carl, sorry, I screwed up. Confession time here on the Good Morning Portugal show. What's happened then, Alan? I think I've got to adjust the exposure. It's looking a bit dark, isn't it, on the screen there? Is that better or is that worse? No, that's worse for a minute. Oh, that's really bleached out. Oh, Pete bleached out with dad jokes. Let's leave it there for the time being. Yes, I'm having my typical Monday morning of being glad to be sat in a chair for an hour and a half after another busy weekend. Alan, screw up then. I was looking for your show YouTube under Expats Portugal and not GMP. Feeling dumb in El... It sounds like one of the 7 dwarfs. Feeling dumb. I hope you asked for permission first. Feeling dumb in El Puerto de Santa Maria. Good morning to you. And no biggie. But the funny thing is, you weren't the only person who had trouble finding the show last Friday. And what a mess that was. By the time we did get on air, we were wrestling with some big-time technical difficulties, weren't we? But seems okay this morning. Tune things up a little bit. Seems to be going well so far, unless you're seeing otherwise on the screen. But no worries, Alan. You weren't the only person to struggle with finding the show, and we struggled with the show when we finally got on air. Today is another day, as is tomorrow. Bom dia, Gumpers, from James. Feliz segunda a todos. Como foi o vosso fim de semana? Feel free to answer that. How was your weekend? Feel free to answer in Portuguese to James. And yeah, T-Duck, we're having a rest. T-Duck having a well-earned break, taking a rest from the cane sabias, which are vital to our learning about Portuguese culture. And the dad jokes, of course. I was going to say, she'll miss the dad jokes. T-Duck will be back next Monday. But Peter stepped straight in, or should I say and rather than but? Well, maybe I should retain the right until we've assessed the quality of his dad jokes. But they seem suitably grown-worthy. One of them is a bit too soon, as they say, possibly there, Pete. But I shall star those up in traditional style. I do like that one about the seafood disco. It's all a good doctor joke. Doctor. Those are always good, aren't they? And and a milk joke to boot. Thank you very much there, Pete. Nice one. Yeah, Pete taking his chances in the dad joke vacuum from which nobody returns. Andy Klein is in, and we've got a video from Andy Klein this morning. I really like this a lot, Andy. Your final video in the our expat journey series, and I'm going to load that up in just a moment as well. Thank you so much for all the value you have given with our expat journey series, which plots your journey, as the name might suggest, to Portugal. Oh, I'm looking. I thought I downloaded it last night. Might have to play that tomorrow. But that's a very fitting end, onward and upward, and loving the name check in the most recent video. I might have to bring that to you tomorrow because I can't see it there now. However, Chris has been busy. He might be effing and jeffing. I apologize in advance if Chris says anything inappropriate here, but this is what he sent me to play this morning.
So, this is a message for Good Morning Portugal. This is Chris from Capricorn 12. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with your friends. So today I'm in Lagos at the Festival of Lagos, and I came yesterday. Which was Friday. I've come today, which is Saturday, the 6th of May, and some people were celebrating the coronation of the King in the UK. I decided to come out here and just chill out in Lagos in the sunshine. So in Portugal, there's tons of festivals throughout the year, throughout the summer especially. Make sure you if you get a chance, check them out because it's so much fun. It's such a community feeling out here. It's just fantastic. So my advice to you is get on the plane, get on the train, hire a car, do what you got to do, get to Portugal and go to the festival. It's Chris from Capricorn 12. Like, subscribe and share. Bye-bye.
Proper YouTuber there. Like, subscribe and share. Cheers, Chris. Thank you very much. And we've got Chris to thank for Tig James being here. He urged me, that's the word I'm going to use, to get Tig on the show. So glad I did. And she's back in a residency now on the first Monday of every month with an update, a post. Well, she's part of the British in Portugal group on Facebook, which is a barrel of laughs in a funny sort of way. And that's part of the larger coalition of British people in Europe post-Brexit and how they're looking to maintain their rights ongoing in Europe, in the EU, which was always going to be an interesting journey. I've had a worrying message in from Vitor. That's Maria's man, Vitor, our man in the north, asking if he's on this morning. No, it's the third Monday. You worried me there. I have to send him a message saying, no, with an exclamation mark, I think I'm going to give him. Third Mondays. It's Tig James this morning. Thought I double booked for a minute. Don't do that to me, Vitor. But more to come about Maria's Portugal Door Portuguese introductory lessons, I was going to call them. Slipping into my Portuguese there. Okay. Crisis averted there. Sue's in with her favourite hotel, my favourite hotel, but stayed in one of the casas there. Pool, games room. Is that the one in Alcobaça that you were staying at and were singing the praises of last year, I think, there? Suze, good morning to you, and thank you for that recommendation. That too will be banked in the Learn About Portugal, a collection of places to stay in Portugal. Coach Turner, message to you from Pete. Thought Ian Turner would get plenty of exercise. Too soon, Pete. In France, protest, run away from the police, jog, tear gas, water cannon, run, walk, police batons, run, walk, jog. Yeah, shocking, man. Shocking. Capricorn 12 then arrived back in the UK at 2 this morning. He's a legend, isn't he? Look at him. He had 2 hours of sleep and he's now back at his desk. Let's get in the zone. Hooah! This morning. Wow. But I think that was a real shot in the arm, wasn't it, coming to Portugal for you? Long overdue by the sound of it, Chris. And thank you for your lovely video there. Much appreciated. I'm going to go back to auto exposure. I think you shouldn't have messed with that. The scoop, says Alan, then France. I'm not sure what. Yeah, well, I guess that's you tipping a nod in sadness to what's going on in France, like me there, Alan. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Mimo in Sagres, what's that? Dougie Hughes knows it well. You were in Lagos, weren't you? And that's where Clive was. Clive made a stunning debut on the Learn About Portugal platform over the weekend, answering a question about Amazon and what's the best thing to do, whether to order from Amazon.de or Amazon.es. There are pros and cons, especially when it comes to having a Prime subscription. But thank you, Clive. I invited you to join us and you came in and made quite the debut. Very helpful. Thank you very much with all your information about ordering from Amazon in Portugal. Good morning from Lee then as well. How you doing, Lee? And Philomena. We've seen your picture already, Philomena, but we haven't played the video yet. And we haven't got much time left until James joins us. So I think I'm going to crack on and play your video now. Ladies walking with big jugs full of water I should add as well. So a bit of dancing first, and then we'll get into that jug competition. Wow. Philomena, question for you. Where can I get that headgear? I was thinking to myself, I really love the floppy, what would it be called? It's not a cap. It's not a hat. It's like a beanie almost, isn't it? With a little bit of a flourish on the end. Is there an outfitters that specializes in Portuguese folk headgear? Because I would love one of those. And then I saw the other hat, and I was thinking I'd love one of those as well. So where do those gentlemen buy those hats? Thank you very much for the first of your videos there. We're going to go to the big jug competition in just a moment. Bondi from a head, spinningly busy, blighty, so much of everything, cars, people, etc. Certainly see that third most populated island in the world statistic. I didn't know that the UK was the third most populated island in the world. Which are the others, I wonder? Thank you very much for that. Back to the videos. Got a lot to squeeze in this morning. Here's the first one of the big jug competition. Now, strangely, it turns from a big jug competition into a wet t-shirt competition. This is what happens next. You see that? She literally smashed it. Wow. The things that go on here in Portugal, not the only things to be held aloft on heads of ladies this weekend in Portugal was, of course, the beginning of the Festa dos Tabuleiros festivities. Was it the big procession this last weekend, or are we waiting a week for that to happen next weekend, I wonder? I think it probably was this last weekend. No footage that I've seen yet on social media or from our own community. But if you were there, tell us how it went. But lots of fun there. That's fantastic. The carrying of the pot of water on the head there, upholding the traditional technology. Thank you very much, Philomena. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your videos this weekend. Up north then, quickly, before we say good morning to James this morning, with a little bit of a look at that sanctuary, Senhora de Socorro. Sanctuario, and it's a quiet place for contemplation normally, and then this happens as well. Oh, like I said before, the sound of a band like that gets me straight in the chest and the belly. A little bit more. Okay, thank you, Pete, and thank you, Bob, for that wonderful video from who is that band there? We should give them appropriate credit, shouldn't we? The Banda de Música de Monção, I believe, says Bob. That was yesterday at Santuario do Senhor de Socorro in La Bruja. Thank you very much. And yeah, Pete, thanks for that. Carl, it is next weekend and tomorrow. So it kicked off in this weekend that's just gone, and the festivities begin. Yeah, that's the right way to do it, with the culmination of the trays of bread and flowers on the head. And earlier, learn about Portugal quiz question, of course, the Festas de Tabuleiros in Tomar, happening this coming weekend. And so I'm sure we'll see some video of that with, 600,000 people in Tomar at the height of that festivity there. Yeah, Bob is here with a comment as well as some cracking videos. Great weekend in La Bruja, says Bob. So many great places with such great energy in Portugal. I was feeling that energy from your video there. Thank you. Gemini Bradshaw is in talking about energy. Good morning to you, Gemini. How are you? Good morning, everyone, from you. And Antonio F also in. A guess from Mr. S. The most hotel revenue takes place in US. My question was, where in Europe? Alan guessed UK, and I should have said EU rather than Europe, because the UK is not included in those figures of the EU 27. I'm sure you're right, Mr. S. The largest hotel revenue in the world is probably the United States. And you say in Europe is France. Not by my calculations. Well, they weren't my calculations, but the study I looked at didn't have France. Would you like to guess again? Okay, bon dia from Suze as well. And a very quick bit of video. Last bit this morning of video from the weekend. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you sending in, taking the time to think of us and then send in videos to us as well. Just a very quick 11 seconds, I think. Do you think this is the Alentejo countryside? I hadn't seen the estuary when I first glanced upon that video. Where was that, do you think? Lord Gilchrist had been summoned to a christening, was there with Margarita, and that was, I think he must have stepped outside. I think he's gone uphill a little bit, because I can hear a little bit of his heavy breathing in the background. But what view do you think that is? I think it's not far from Lisbon, possibly, across the estuary there, but I'm not exactly sure. Is he in and shouting yet? In the chat, I'm sure he'll tell us himself. Oh, and thank you, for that prompt there. And forgive me if I worried everybody. thinking they'd missed the Festa dos Tabuleiros in Tomar. No, it's going until next Monday, and the big tray wearing event, I suspect, will be on Saturday or Sunday of next weekend, which is, if you get it right, you could visit the new shop on the way there. You could go to Quinta Esencial, who are having their opening bonanza, where you'll get a nice glass of home brewed wine. Oh, talking of wine, it's the battle of the Bio Brancos tonight. We've got a couple of bio white wines that we're trying at 8 o'clock tonight on the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club. So the Festa season holding up strong, and I hope you are too. And coffee and wine and little patishkos are available to help you keep your energy up. Let's play his jingle and bring him on, shall we? We'll be talking to the slug in just a moment.
Bon dia.
Straight in. I see what you did there. To be fair, James, we've done that once or twice before, haven't we?
Which one?
The entrance, your big entrance.
Oh, that?
Yeah. The warm hand on your opening, so to speak.
Yeah, and then the new one.
The stroking
always
the cockerel.
Got to stroke the cockerel. It's very backwards.
I did not say you've always got to stroke the cockerel. It's a serving suggestion. Do you want to try that again?
Well, it's yeah.
Oh, loud and proud first thing in the morning. How
There
are
it
you?
is.
Tudo bem? Como estás?
Muito bem, obrigado.
Perfeito. Eu também. Muito bem. So, how was your weekend? A nice, quiet one. I mean, I was thinking to myself, great, a nice, quiet Monday morning. There was nothing quiet about that, was there?
I always love a big entrance in the morning.
Plus, people have been busy, haven't they? Monday is our time to relax, not the weekend, I think, with if that's anything to go by, the lovely footage that's coming over the weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, my weekend, first of all, getting old. It's beyond dad joke anymore, because I just keep saying, what's the weekend?
Yeah.
To me, it's either a day I have a client or it's not. And that's,
right.
That's so seldom that, the week is no longer defined by a weekend, other than the structure that this YouTube show provides. There's a Monday through Friday every day kind of thing for me. But if it weren't for that, I'd be completely lost as to what day of the week it was. So thank you.
Well, for giving you some sense of structure.
For the structure, yes.
And I should say at this point that nobody on this earth should rely on me for structure. But there you go. there you have it.
I think we're going to rely on you for days of the week anyway.
Yeah, I could just about get that right. So, and this weekend thing, you're absolutely right. I was getting into a habit of after my Thursday back-to-back webinar, which is probably, I don't see myself as a hardworking person compared to what some people do, but it does get quite intense on a Thursday evening, and it feels to me like, Thursday, that's the hardest evening over in terms of intensity of energy when it comes to working and doing the two webinars back to back, and hosting those. And then I've got my Feel Good Friday show on the Friday. So the weekend begins on a Thursday evening for me after, about 10 o'clock. And then I was really getting into that and thinking, okay, I'm going to make the weekend count or do a few things around the house. And I suddenly realized I don't need to do that. I can do all the things I love doing every single day of the week. And I don't have to create that kind of tumultuous feeling or those ebbs and those emotional roller coaster ride things that are more.
It's a great feeling, isn't it?
It was such a liberation.
Yes.
I don't have to wait, or I don't have to I don't have to impose a structure on myself that I resented society imposing on me for decades.
Yeah, stop it, you idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Some kind of
Stop it, you idiot.
it was some kind of Stockholm syndrome-y stuff, of carrying on the habits that I resented, that I felt were imposed upon me, and then putting them on myself. So yeah, that was great to see that. So I'm with you. I guess the diary can be useful from time to time when making arrangements with other people, although I still do forget to write things down. But really, we can enjoy, we're in a position now, many of us, aren't we, to enjoy a greater freedom and shake off that conditioning, James.
What a privilege. Yes.
What a privilege indeed. Yes, indeed. So what's been on your mind this week? You have sent me an image there are two images actually from you. One that I forgot last week, which is a dad joke. I'd like you to be here actually to take some responsibility for these. So come on, talk us through this one.
Okay, so you kind of have to know the characters. I think anyone that knows Star Trek Next Generation knows data. I never know which form of the word to use. Anyway, alligators can live up to 50 years. Okay. By my calculations, this significantly increases the chances that they will, in fact, see you later. Stop it, you idiot!
What I meant to play was, but both work. Both work. Yes, they just keep coming, don't they? Those Star Trek Next Generation memes. My goodness.
Yeah, and that one actually kind of used the personalities of the characters to deliver the joke. So
yeah. So there you go.
That adds to
alligator. It. And this, with a nice dude's got it all backwards. Should be.
No.
Why, James? Why?
Yeah, it seemed appropriate for today. I don't know. Mindfulness home. So yeah.
Oh yes.
So today, you made mention and included me in that of the shirking off of the lenses through which we see ourselves from our past. And it got me thinking for a moment. I don't have anything in detail, but the first thing, I got literal about it, and I said, oh, lenses. So like glasses. All right, well, the glasses I have sunglasses that you use to actually see are transitions. So they get darker as it gets sunnier and lighter as you move in. So the filtering changes depending on your environment. I thought, oh, that could apply. And then mine are also progressive, so that depending on where I look in the lens, I can see a different distance to my eyes. And I said, well, both of those kind of apply when you're using lenses to determine whether we are carrying on our history in our, I don't know how you would frame that, but I think for me, it's been intentional and mindful to let go of the things that I don't particularly care for in the place where I came from. I don't identify as an American anymore. I identify as someone from the United States. Because in my mind, there's a difference. And in part, it's the association, the negative association that some people, maybe many people, have with the label American. So those types of things, I've been able to separate myself more from the news by virtue of being outside of the country that is 24/7 talking about itself. And
yes,
and I just said that kind of mockingly, but then I realized there's real truth in that. Most Americans I know nothing about the rest of the world, or very little, even geography, like where places are. It's just so America centric, the news cycle, that it's easy as someone in the United States to forget that there's a whole world out there that is not called the United States of America. So I've consciously worked on letting go of that. Of course, I've been doing that for years, even when I was in the United States. But being in Europe is really helpful in expanding the vision of the rest of the world, because I'm not just constantly inundated by news of America. So in that regard, yes, I have been successful at letting go of some of the identity with my past. I try to be conscious of how I perceive what's going on. And anyone who's gotten to know me at all knows that I tend to be fairly mindful. So I am introspective. If I have an opinion, not all the time, but I'll catch myself and I'll say, all right, is that mine? Where did that come from? Do I believe that? Certain questions that I've asked myself over time that have helped me to reshape who I am now versus who I used to be. To me, it's an ongoing evolution. So I don't identify as much with being American as I may have at one point, and I'm always aware of the privilege that I carry. I try to remember to use that word when it is appropriate and applies to me. So, you know, I with great joy said, you know, isn't it wonderful that we don't have to concern ourselves so much with a calendar? But that is a privilege, a huge privilege that 99.9% of the population of the earth does not enjoy. Yeah. You know, they don't enjoy that privilege. So I try to then remember that so that I can be grateful for it, because I really am. Yes. I'm grateful for my privilege, and I don't ever want to take it for granted. And I don't ever want to forget that there are many people who don't experience that kind of privilege in their lives. So to be mindful of that. So that's a long answer.
Well said. No, I that's great, and it may have been prompted, or maybe what you're thinking anyway, but it might have been accelerated by me asking earlier on. I don't know if you caught that. I said, you know, you're here on a Monday to look at life through an American lens, and quite the opposite in a way. you're shaking that off, and because as I was saying, I was thinking, you know, this is a man who prides himself on first and foremost being a human being, a resident of the planet Earth rather than a particular nationality. I think what happens, James, when you're abroad, however, is it's other people who maintain your national identity for you, isn't it? Whilst you or I might be busy deconditioning ourselves from the lenses that we once had, as soon as we open our mouths in the new place, we get reminded and placed by the people who are hearing us speak. Oh, you're a Brit.
Yes.
Oh, you're American. Well, yeah.
I do it to about Americans. You know, I hear an American accent, and I'm all of a sudden putting them, oh, those Americans. You know, it's like so. Humans are funny characters, and we do try to separate and group ourselves, typically in a one-up or a one-down situation. We either want to be better or we assume we're not as good. And it's just something we do. So being mindful about it, for me, is the key. Why am I doing that? It's like, oh, because I don't want to be associated with those characteristics. I don't want people to lump me into that category of those Americans that I'm seeing now and pointing my finger at in my mind and saying those Americans, you know. So
you think it can go too far, James? Do you think it can become? And there is who was it who came up with the Lord Gilchrist shared the word with us recently about how it is as a foreigner. I started calling people Effies, expat, foreigner, immigrant. So for the Effies, sometimes, and I'm aware of doing this myself, we can overcompensate with that distancing. And there is a word for it. It's kind of xena something, obviously not xenophobia, but it's something to do with being a foreigner, but trying to not be a foreigner or distance oneself from the other foreigners. Do you think there's a possibly sometimes an overcompensation, or we work a little bit too hard on that?
I would say almost always. When we make changes, my experience, because I mean, that's the nature of my work, is working with people who are looking to change things in their lives, is very often things that are habitual. I call it a pendulum phenomenon, which is we tend to go from one side
Yeah.
and say, I don't want to be that anymore. So we swing all the way over to the complete opposite side. And then for a while, we're kind of swinging around, and eventually we find that more centered place. But I think any time that we commit ourselves to making a conscious change, we tend to slide a little farther over than maybe where we intend to be ultimately. But it's how we find our way.
It is.
Kids,
it is.
I was just going to say, kids and
Go on,
humor are a
kids.
great example of that, because a child will tell a joke and it'll really embarrass people, or it'll be, it's something really like over the top. And then they'll get a feel for that. Oh, then maybe that was a little too much. And then, eventually they'll find that place that works. But it's almost always way over on the edge when they first start.
Yeah. I've got a 4-year-old who is in that phase at the moment. It is fantastic. The joke makes absolutely no sense, but the joy of telling it is 110%. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm waiting
Daddy, why do dogs run? I don't know. Why do dogs run?
Because of the banana. Because of the banana, James.
What?
Following that, you see, they take their cue from us with our dad jokes. They've got the delivery and the corniness down, haven't they? But the content is just needs a little bit of work, That's not a criticism. Bon dia from Eurico Mota is with us. Good morning to you, and also Victoria's in. Hola, bon dia, kids from a sunny Portimao. And the OLP is in. A few comments from the OLP, and we'll come back to this. Do your tattoos have meaning? Of course they do, OLP.
Absolutely.
But I've got to return. Hold on just a minute on that, because
stop it, you idiot.
Hold those tattoos for just a moment. They're not going anywhere, are they? Let's face it.
No. Unless I'm going
just
somewhere.
Share with you, which I meant. That's true. That's the only circumstance in which they're going somewhere. The Portugal weather with Dynasty Homes this morning. I meant to do this before 9 or around 9, and I will do it now before we get any later. Now
I could do it really quickly.
I only tend to read. Go on.
There's weather out there. Okay,
there is, and I tend not to do the weather, James, because of that reason, that it's like, it's just pleasant and mild, or it's really hot. However, I think there are some interesting comparisons, because I'm not as aware of the hot weather as others are in this country at the moment, because for the last 2 weeks, we've had a pretty stiff breeze, and who doesn't like it stiff first thing in the morning or at any other time of the day? So I'm going to take a little look at the weather, and I think this is best suited to the summer months, I have to say, when we look at the weather, if only to say, my goodness, look at the heat and be careful out in the heat, and certainly with the fire risk as well. So in Lisbon, it's currently 28 degrees. And no, it's not. It's currently 19 with a high of 28 degrees. I do beg your pardon. See, it's so long since I've done this that I've forgotten how to do it, which is in the Fahrenheit. And I will translate these if necessary. What's your preference, Fahrenheit or centigrade? I might change the whole lot because I've done them in British centigrade here, or imperial. That's in Lisbon, of course, 82 the high today. With a current 66 and a little bit of sunshine peeking out from behind the clouds. Similar in Porto, 20 degrees currently with a few clouds, and that will rise to 23 as the high today. Coimbra, 31, and as you might expect, a little bit warmer in central Portugal, but cloudy today, currently 20 degrees. Faro, 25 at the moment, rising to 27. And Braga in the north, there's some hot weather up in the north, a high of 33 today in Braga as the place we're choosing from the north. 23 currently and cloudy, rising to 33. And as I scan across the rest of the week, it looks like it's kind of cooling down, actually. So not extremely hot weather in Portugal, or so it would seem at the time being. As we look at this increasingly throughout the week, then for the next few months, we look at weather in Aveiro, Beja, Castelo Branco, Évora, Leiria, Santarém, Viseu, Bragança, Guarda, Porto Alegre, Setúbal, Viana do Castelo, Villarreal, and the autonomous regions as well. Do request your weather by name and location. That is the weather by Dynasty Homes. And when you've got a company called Dynasty Homes, you can really do it justice on the weather from Dynasty Homes. It needs a drum roll before it, which I think I've got somewhere. Anyway, back to you and your tattoos, James.
Well, I do want to add that if you're going to say dynasty, then you have to say
Oh,
weather.
no.
Weather.
I'd
If you say
rather
weather,
dynasty.
it has to be dynasty. You know, got to
Of
get your
course it
accents
does.
right here, man.
All right. Dynasty Home, as in
There
Sherlock
you go.
Holmes.
Weather by Dynasty, or weather by Dynasty.
You'll be having me say the rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain as my weather forecast.
That's the one I've given Louisa here, because
All right.
the tendency to pronounce the long A as I. So yeah, that's a good one for
see.
people who are looking to reduce that accent.
Or my other British weather forecast is bloody hot. Right.
Yes.
Your tattoos.
Today's weather out there.
Right. British and other British weather forecasting tips.
On to tattoos.
Right. You're on to tattoos. And we'll set this up because OLP it's lovely to see you here, OLP, this morning, trying to finish our pack up from 27 years here in Oregon. That is a big pack up, isn't it, after living somewhere for 27 years?
Yeah, I'd be looking for an unload on that one.
Yep. Next week we'll be in Montana by the end of the week, the 14th or so. Wow. The plan is coming together. Carl, so looking to reach out to your expertise, feel free. And I was thinking about you at the weekend. You may have received my message, you may not. Oh, you haven't, because you haven't been able to check into my channel recently. That will be either the Learn About Portugal platform or this YouTube channel. Both are available to you and at your service, OLP. I hope you know that. Okay, so sorry, you were asking about James's tattoos as well. What do they mean?
It's a very long story. I don't even know if we have time for it. Ultimately, the bottom line on it is that my oldest son, his dream was to be a tattoo artist or a tattooist. He's very talented artistically. Both of my sons are artistically talented. So I got to thinking at one point, how can I support him in this dream? He wanted to have his own tattoo shop at one point. And I said, oh, I know, a good dad thing to do. I'll just get some copies of his artwork and have a portfolio I can show people when they're interested. And it's like, no, on the dad register, like, how good a dad are you? No, not good. That's not it. I said, oh, okay, well, So that would mean, how else could I? And I have to preface this by saying that in my life, while I supported his love of and desire to be a tattooist, I never had any inclination. My thinking was, I will never have a tattoo. That's fine. He can have tattoos all over his body if he wants, but I don't want. So in this process of how do I support him, the bottom line is that I realized the only way that I could really support him in his work would be to get a piece of his work on me. And then I wouldn't have to carry a portfolio around. And most people, if I'm wearing long sleeves, people don't know. And that wasn't intentional, but people just don't know. And it's only when I take the long sleeves off, and then, you know, I can't, the angle is always hard for me to figure out. But then people see it. And when people see it, many of them ask questions. They say, ooh, nice tat. You know, where'd you get that? All right, now I'm not carrying a portfolio saying, hey, are you interested in some tattoo art? Let me show you. It's like, we're talking about it already. So that was my initial inspiration for doing it. And since I've been very happy in having done it, I'm happy to share it. So anyone who, because I don't have the time to give the whole story, who's interested and sees me, I'll be happy to spend 20 minutes or so telling you all about how it came to be and what it is. But the bottom line on it is
you didn't used to be, you weren't in a motorcycle gang then. You weren't in a motorcycle gang.
No.
Long story.
And it's interesting. I didn't choose the location for any particular reason other than it felt like the right place for me. But as it turned out, as a professional psychotherapist, I could, depending on who my clients were, and I was working with a lot of teens at the time, I could wear short sleeves or roll my long sleeves up when I was working with the teens who just thought it was cool, and oh man, this guy must be someone that I, should pay attention to, or whatever it might do. There was a certain amount of credibility that came just with the fact that I've got ink on my arm. But then there were adults who might go, "Ooh, is he a biker? What does he have? What is that color smudge on his arm? I don't know, whatever it is." So I could then respectfully and carefully, just make sure that I had long sleeves on, then nobody saw it. So it worked out really well, even though it wasn't the reason for the location. So yeah, there's many reasons I did it. Primarily, it was to support my son in his efforts to be a tattoo artist, and he is. And loving way. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the work that it represents. I'm incredibly pleased with the artwork. I love the story behind it. So it's another one of those places where, it goes back kind of where we started, the lens of who we are and what we let go of or what we change. This is one of those. Like, I absolutely have shifted my view on what tattoos mean. And of course, in my lifetime, they've gone from sailors and biker gangs to anyone and his mother. It's like there are tattoos everywhere, and the social acceptance of them, well, again, at least in US culture, and I'm thinking European culture as well, many cultures around the world, tattoos are symbols of life experience or things that are important to people. And there are cultures who think that they should be banned, I'm assuming. So, yes. But it's
Brits. They have changed in UK for sure. My favorite tattoo, I think, from when I was a kid, and from the times when it really was, I think, a sign of your class, of where you came from, whether you had a tattoo or not. I loved that kind of sailor one with the naked woman, with her hands behind her head on the forearm, a bit like Popeye might have. That's that sort of situation. But thank you for sharing that, and an indelible sign of love for your son there. And OLP saying, James, that is so loving. That's wonderful, because she suspected maybe, and was asking, oh no, that's a kid joke. Hold on a minute. She was saying earlier on anyway that some people are three sheets, which clearly is an American phrase as well as a British one, when they have their tattoos done. So a mindful tattoo, which is of course what we would expect from you. Best kid joke, Gary. This is just I think this is you doing a dad joke and pretending it's a kid joke and just trying to shoehorn it in here. Why did the dinosaur cross the road? Because they didn't have chickens in them days. Okay, thank you very much. That's about it. Set the bar quite low for anyone else who wants to add a dad joke. James, excellent stuff. We'll welcome Tig to the show, her second appearance in her new residency on the Good Morning Portugal show in just a moment. What a debut! There were moments when she was here last time when I think I can be seen going like that, and Louisa had to come in and push my chin back up with some of the information she was sharing last time. A few more greetings before she joins us and a few more updates. Eusebio and I will be entering, I think he's back in the country, isn't he, the prof? The Central Portugal Rally this year. He will be driving and I will be pedaling and pushing the car. Sounds like Fred and Barney, doesn't it, from the Flintstones, those two there. Mr. S was asking Pete where he was born, where he came from. Richmond upon Thames. You can't be more British than that. I was born in Kingston upon Thames, and Pete down the road there at Richmond upon Thames. And I wish I knew more than the 11 hours of Portuguese lessons a week. He does 11 hours a week. Well, and I'm struggling a great deal. Writing is easy. Pronunciation is like a mouthful of marbles. That might go down in history as a little analysis of how to speak Portuguese. Thank you very much for that, Pete. Yeah, good luck with the packing, OLP. 27 years in one place. That's not going to be an easy job. All the best to you, and do reach out. Gary trying to defend himself now. It was told to me by my nephew years ago. Okay, fair enough. I got my tattoo, says Gary, when I was moving ammunition for the MOD. is this a joke coming up? I just thought it might make parts of me more identifiable if things went wrong.
Could be a joke or could be very
No,
sadly
I think
true.
that's probably true. That's probably true.
Yes.
I thought his body had been modified by when moving ammunition for the MOD. But my goodness, that's. Did you have your name written on various parts of your body? That is a lovely story, says Pete to you, James. And I don't blame you for not making the commitment. And I don't blame you for not making the commitment of a face tattoo. Lots of tattooed people in Portugal, but it's rude to go up and point in Portugal. So wait to be shown here. On that note, and I'm not saying that because Tig's got tattoos. It's time.
Speaking of tattoos, let's bring Tig on.
Yay! Oh, hold on a minute. Let's get rid of some of the furniture off the screen here. Good morning to you, Tig. How are you?
Bon dia.
Bon dia. Have you recovered yet, Carl?
What, from you being here last time?
Yeah.
No, not really. I'm a little concerned about what you might be sharing with us this morning. So let's check in with you first. How are you doing? How's your part of Portugal?
All right, actually, hot, of course, but at least we get the wind here, so that's fine by me.
It's all that feijoada. Is it feijoada a local speciality? And that's why you get all that.
No, not that sort of wind, Carl.
Okay, starting as we mean to go on, lightening the mood already. Will you say this? Are you Silver Coast then with a breeze? Is that where you are?
No, I'm Algarve.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm West Algarve, so we get the breeze. And a friend has just been telling me how she went to Albufeira yesterday, and I mean, it's just the air's just still there. You get nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh no, not in this. And at least, you open your back door and your front door and the wind just comes straight through. It's brilliant. Yeah.
How lovely. And the Western Algarve, I think you just said, yes, a blustery. Sagres, if you go to Sagres, you get a bit of a breeze there, don't you? Very refreshing. And shout out, Albufeira. I saw yesterday that Emma Belter, our friend Emma Belter from the Belters, she said she's on Facebook, I think, just back from playing in the Devil's Armpit. So I think it probably was quite hot in Albufeira and quite difficult conditions to perform in. Shout out to you from Capricorn Chris, who was keen to have you on the show and take some of the credit for you being here, Tig. So what's new? I mean, there might be things left over from last time that, with that incredible amount of information you shared. Anything to resolve from last time?
I think there was one, but it may have been resolved anyway, which was there was something about citizenship that I couldn't remember that I wanted to say. And I was thinking, what on earth was it? And then suddenly, of course, once I'd left, I thought, oh, yeah, I remember what it was now.
Often like that.
And it was... But who was the guy? I'm ever so sorry. I'm useless with names. Who was the guy that had got citizenship that you had on? Can you remember?
Michael, wasn't it? Michael Heron. Because he
was going for citizenship. It was the other guy who'd been in the armed forces.
Oh, who was? I don't remember now.
Carl
Hyde.
Carl, yes.
Yes.
That's right, because he was married to a Portuguese woman, wasn't he? That was right.
Right, yes, it was Carl Hyde. And Michael's going for it. Michael will be here on Wednesday of this week, and we could check in with him about his process. But it was Carl Hyde who was on the screen. Because we were all a little bit agog, weren't we? Even Carl on that morning. And Michael, I think, was there as well, and Bobby. Yeah, it was a real eye-opener. Yeah.
It was because, I mean, I certainly know that it was something that was addressed with the Portuguese government with citizenship, that if you'd been a member of the armed forces, that they actually turned you down, British armed forces, because you'd sworn your allegiance to Queen or King and country, therefore you weren't allowed to have Portuguese citizenship. But from what Carl was saying, because he'd been in the armed forces, he actually managed to get his citizenship. Whether it's different because he was married to a Portuguese citizen, I don't know. But certainly about 5 years ago, because I was at a meeting and with one of the Portuguese ministers, and it was a subject that was brought up, that citizenship was turned down because of people, UK nationals, actually having been, you well know you've sworn you'll fight for somebody else. You're not coming here.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. There's all sorts of stuff like that I keep coming across. Yeah.
And you
So
might say the Portuguese are a little bit more relaxed about criminal records than they are about being in the army, because that doesn't preclude you from coming to Portugal, does it? Some criminal
don't know for citizenship. Don't know.
Okay.
Well, maybe if they pledge themselves to a life of crime, they might not be accepted.
Yeah, don't keep that off any visa applications.
Make a tattoo.
Yes, keep your gang tattoos covered up when, at any important interviews. So what's new, Tig, since we last saw you in this? I mean, basically, what's going on is it's unfolding before our eyes, isn't it? And I suppose the general idea from speaking to you last time is it hadn't been thought through very well. No big surprise there. And typically with these monumental changes, there are things that you're only going to find out about once the process is on the move. And it's in that situation, that's where I was, I think, mostly agog, is how those massive changes affect people in a very individual and sometimes painful way.
Yeah, I think the thing that shocked you was because, I mean, how long have you been here, Carl?
I will have been here 6 years in September. Yeah.
And I think that sort of makes a difference, because you're more used to the systems, you're more used to the process, and whatever. But I think the difficulty was it was a new system for everybody. And because it was a new law, the withdrawal agreement, I mean, there were so many difficulties, and still are, across the EU for UK nationals. There still are. From voting, from healthcare, from payments for health insurance. There's all sorts of stuff. And I think that if you were already in the systems, like you'd already got healthcare because you'd been here 6 years, you'd registered for it and whatever, that wasn't an issue. It was more an issue for people the healthcare, particularly for people that had just come over, trying to get in before the Brexit deadline, you know. And then they just couldn't, they just weren't allowed healthcare. And seriously, I still have families who do not have healthcare and have been here 3 or 4 years.
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned that you've been in meetings with government ministers. This is the level you're working at, is it? You are summoned from time to time?
Every so often, yeah. And that sort of, the embassy will ask me for reports and stuff, you know, to say what is the latest thing. And I think last time we were saying, wasn't there, that I'd just done a report for the EU Commission, because again, I'll get into trouble. You see, you get me into trouble, Carl, all the time.
I don't mean to. I really don't mean to.
Because the last time I did, just before I'd come on, I think 2 days before, I'd just done the latest report on the situation in Portugal for the EU Commission, because they every so often they ask for updates. I give it to somebody else. It's then presented. I don't care as long as our issues are highlighted. Who does it? Couldn't give a monkeys.
Yeah.
So I did that. And I mean, and do you remember I said to you that the Portuguese government, all the way through this, they kept saying that we'd get our cards soon.
Yes.
That it would be soon. And that soon just turned into years where people couldn't get healthcare. They were being detained at airports. And that's when your jaw started to drop. And keep picking it up. Yeah. But one of the other things that has been absolutely consistent with the Portuguese government as well is that they have said there aren't any problems. It's being rolled out fine. It's coming. It's okay. There's no issues. Consistently for years. Well, of course, that has just been absolutely categorically not true. And that has been the consistent thing, is the untruths about it.
So what do people do in that situation? So a couple of things. I want to find out what redress I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? If you do find yourself at a immigration point somewhere in the Schengen area, and you find yourself out of favor, so to speak, in that situation, you're very vulnerable, aren't you? And so there's probably not a lot you can do in that sort of situation, apart from follow the guidance you're being given by that particular country, and then take it up from there once you've been deported or whatever. That's basically what happened, isn't it, to some of the people we were talking about? But what before that happens, in these situations where people haven't been given their medical cards or the ability to get medical treatment, what is being done and what can they do about it? Is there anything?
Talk to me.
Right, and then, but then what do you do? I mean, you're finding yourself at these high-level meetings, are you, where you can say directly to the face of the person who once said, "Don't worry, it's going to happen soon, and it's definitely happening." You can say, "Well, actually, no, it's not." Is that where we're at?
Not quite. I don't go directly, but I go around it. I go to other people, and like I said to you, I work with the embassy, and between us we try and sort it out.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully the detentions at airports have now stopped. Hopefully, because it was like I said, we'd got it was at the border controls. The books hadn't got in the interim paperwork that the Portuguese government SCF had issued. And I'm hoping that has now been resolved. I mean, if I start getting panic phone calls again, I'll know it hasn't. But basically, I mean, what has happened is the people that still do only have the QR code, they're basically they're just not traveling.
Right. So there is something you can do.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of checklist or somewhere you can go to find out that you are at least as up to speed as you possibly can be? Because I suspect that's what's gone on for some of these folks. They've assumed that the paperwork they've got is good to go and will allow them to go about their business in the way that they intended. But then they discover that they have not got the right paperwork. How do people, just so that we can help people this morning, Tig, how do people make sure they've got the most up-to-date piece of paper when traveling around the rest of Schengen or the rest of the world?
It's Schengen, really. Okay. It's your issue, because you haven't got a visa, because you don't need one, because you're a resident in an EU member state.
Right.
So you don't need a visa.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, technically. In theory. The only thing you can do, you see, the thing is the QR code that we've been given is the legitimate legal paperwork that you need. It's just that as you get to the borders, it's not accepted. Right. Because in the book of the documents from all the countries that are accepted, the Schengen area border guards were checking it and it wasn't there. So therefore, you're not telling the truth. Therefore, you've overstayed in the Schengen, put you on the plane. Yes. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Okay. But you think the worst of that is behind us, and why is that?
Hope so. Why is that? It's because basically lots of people have been issued with their withdrawal agreement biometric cards.
Okay. So that's state of the art. That's ideally what you need now, is to have one of those. I have one of those. I was going to say I look forward to using it, but I kind of don't, just in case one of these other.
No, you're absolutely fine with the withdrawal agreement biometric card, because of course what the border guards were expecting was the withdrawal agreement biometric card. Everybody else had them.
Yes.
Why haven't you? Oh, don't be ridiculous. You're this is years ago now. Of course you've got. No, we haven't. This is what we've been given. So you've got people who've done everything perfectly legally.
Yep.
Then we're going to sort of going to traveling and getting detained.
Yes, not good, not good. Okay, Squire of the Shire's lightening the mood here. The only single market I was glad of leaving was Tinder. You can use that if you want, Tig, in your
That's cool. I like
British
that.
in Portugal group on Facebook. Now, this is where people can stay in touch with you, isn't it? Yeah. Is British in Portugal. British in Portugal. Now, when I was reading the details around this, I realized that it's part of the broader coalition, I think you call it, of British people in all of Europe. I'm guessing that although there have been these terrible problems for some people in Portugal, people are having far worse problems in other parts of Europe. Is that right?
I think Portugal was the worst.
Really?
I think across the EU.
Despite our long-standing relationship, or is it because of? Did we assume too many things?
I don't know if assumptions were made so much as SCF just didn't have the staff.
Okay. All right.
They just didn't have the staff. And of course, and they do what we all know Portuguese people do is, oh, it's okay, no, it'll be soon. It's okay. That And the way they do, very calmly and very kindly, no, it's okay, don't worry, it'll be here soon. And of course, but it just didn't.
Yeah.
It just didn't.
I am surprised and gutted to hear that to some extent, that Portugal is ranking among the worst countries when it comes to Brits. This a bit too emotive to say stranded in Europe, but you get the gist. Pete says, I think Tig is right. It is the consistent inconsistency. There you go. That's a good phrase, isn't it? Of Portuguese bureaucracy. Wife and I apply for driving license at the same time. Mine arrived 3 weeks later, 2.5 years on. Wife is still waiting.
Yeah, people have it. And you see, and that was the other problem. You see, with IMT is what they did with the driving licenses. Is suddenly the driving license institution decided that Brits weren't allowed to renew or have new driving licenses if they didn't have their withdrawal agreement biometric card. I've had people lose businesses, and people not, say that they were drivers, couldn't drive, lost their jobs.
Yikes. Okay.
It's I cannot tell you how bad this has been. People have lost businesses, they've lost driving license, they've lost jobs, they've lost premises. It's been horrific. They've got relatives or themselves that have got illnesses that are, potentially fatal, terminal.
Yes, but they
because
can't
didn't issue these flipping cards, which legally they were absolutely obliged to do.
Yes. As a little aside, and we'll come to you, James, on a driving license update in just a moment, because you have a story to tell on that. I was listening to a phone-in last night about the benefits of a 4-day week. It's being piloted, I think, in the UK, and it's certainly not a new idea that some people might do a 4-day week, and it's actually improved efficiency in some places, and others no difference has been noticed. And I thought to myself, what would happen if Seth went on to 4 instead of 5 days a week? Not a good idea, Tig. I mean, they need something, don't they? There's two parts to it. There is their morale, isn't there, which needs some help because they are demoralized as a group of people. So they do need something on a compassionate human level, and they need to get their act sorted out for sure. From what we can tell, from what you're sharing with us when you join us. Go on.
I'm just going to say it sounds like a top-down issue.
No, I just think,
that's it.
Yeah. Go on, Tig.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
We went into a bit of a delay there, but you were going to say something about Seth. It sounds like I'm not helping by suggesting they take a 4-day week.
No, not at all. It's if you haven't got the staff, you haven't got the staff.
Yeah. Okay.
If they haven't got the people to do the work that they already have. And one of the things that has been raised recently, certainly with me and certainly at the EU level, is that CEF isn't fit for purpose. And I actually agree. Mm-hmm. It isn't fit. When you see so many people are having such a torrid time with them, and they are. It isn't just Brits, it's every nationality is going through this. Yeah. Every nationality. And North Americans, when they've been coming in, because they're new third country nationals, they're getting seen quite quickly.
Okay.
But otherwise, once you're in the system, oh my goodness, it's been a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I was talking to a guy the other day, a South African, and he's been here 2 years, and I don't know because theirs, of course, is different as well, because South Africa isn't a trusted country, as in sort of like in immigration, so much. But he's had a terrible time. He and his family, terrible time with Seth. Right. And it's because of, they just haven't got the staffing levels that meet the requirements of the amount of work that they've got. And I get it, but that then leaves people literally in danger of losing their lives. And I will never countenance and agree with that. I can't do that.
No, I totally get that. And we'll return to what can be done about it, if anything, in just a moment, after we've had a driving license update from our North American here.
Well, there's not a whole lot to it other than the long, detailed story of just figuring out what was required to, what documents were needed. I have said the bureaucracy of Portugal is one of needing verification of verification, because there's no such thing as one person says, who's qualified to says, yes, this is authentic. You need 15 people to say that the one who said it is authorized to say it was authorized by somebody else. There's this pile of paperwork that says verification is the thing. That's what created the issue for me in two different countries, because Portugal had its set of requirements, California had its set of requirements, and they didn't always match. The meanings of things like apostille were different. So what do you mean by when you say I need an apostille? What document do you need? That was not clear. All these things, all this confusion between the two systems. And then this need for multiple layers, and this increase the requirements on the other side. And then you add into it that IMT and the consulate in San Francisco had different requirements for the license or documentation of the license. And this was all after they said, okay, never mind. If you've got a active, legitimate license, you can use that in Portugal. And then they said, unless you're over 65, then you have to do it this old-fashioned way. And that made no sense to me. That was just ageist in my view. It's like, what? Why everyone except those people of a certain age? Why? And that creates all those problems. And then IMT changes their requirements. And I was just behind the changes. I said, okay, here's what they need. Send it in. That's not what we need. We need this. Okay, here's this. No, we don't need that anymore. We need this. So every time I was sending them what they said they needed, they changed the requirements. Well, I say every time. It happened 3 times. So 3 times, everything I sent them was sent back with no real explanation other than this is not what we require. So that was the process of just getting my IMT appointment so that I could make the exchange.
It's pretty standard stuff, to be honest. Yes. And it's so frustrating for you as it is for all of us. I think the additional problem, I mean, like you say, there was a change. So what you also have is half the staff knowing about the change and the other half not knowing about the change. And I think one of the things that certainly I have come across, and I mean literally thousands of times, is that you could go to one camera office and they would tell you one thing. You could go to another camera office and they would tell you another. And literally because the staff were just not aware of what their own rules were. And in the end, what I actually had to do was put out an actual video in the end, and I did like documents. You do this, and this, and I mean literally people were going into cameras all over Portugal going, Tig said this, And
oh, that woman again.
Right. You're that Tig. Oh, now I get it.
And it was just like, it was. I found this quite amusing actually, because somebody came back to me and they said, right, they've turned me down. They won't let me get my residency. Absolutely ridiculous. They're fully entitled to it. They've got all the documentation and whatever. And I went, right. And they said, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back and say, you sent me. I went, well, and they said,
okay, here you go. Don't bring in the Tig.
Okay. No, what I'm going to do, all right then, what I'll do is I'll say, you said this. I said, well, that's okay. I'll let you do that. That's okay. Anyway, so they went stomping off to the camera office and they went, Tig James wrote this and said, this is what I have to do and I'm not leaving till I get my rest of it. They went, oh, okay then, and gave it her.
Okay, well, that's a good strategy, and we're thinking now of perhaps some Tig James merchandise, where a T-shirt with your face on it. So when people go into SEF, they can wear a T-shirt, or pens with Tig Says.
They might throw darts at you though. You never know.
Hashtag Tig Says, I think is the new campaign. And that's what I'd like to conclude with, Tig, if possible. I mean, you will be back because this is a great opportunity for us to find out from you what's going on, particularly for the post-Brexit Brits. But I think there's an overlap, isn't there? When we're talking about Seth, other people are experiencing Seth from a different angle. So it's useful from a number of angles, and especially useful for the post-Brexit Brits. I want to know what we can do about these things. It's great that you made a video. Where can people get help when they find themselves suddenly out in the cold? And before you answer that, I mean, I have my own story of this situation where it's so sort of discretionary and grey and subjective. When we were in a very hot Leiria SEF office one day, we had, I think it was me, Mrs. M, and 2 kids in a very hot office. We queued up for ages, and it was quite a tense atmosphere. People from all over the world in the waiting room, not quite knowing what was going on. We were quite new to Portugal at the time, and we'd been sent already from pillar to post, and we had this appointment in Leiria. And we sat in front of this lady there, and there seemed to be a little bit of an impasse. I don't know if other people recognize this, where you sit there and you don't know what to do next, and they don't say anything. And it's just like it's a deafening silence and an impasse. And then a chap came who looked like a high up, and suddenly it goes into black and white, like a scene from the Netflix show Gloria. And a man who doesn't introduce himself comes and stands behind the woman we're dealing with and sort of looks down on the paperwork. And it's all still quiet. And we've shut up by this point, trying to speak in French, using a translator on our phones and stuff. And this guy is standing there, doesn't say hello or anything. He's just standing, watching the room and standing over the desk that we're at. And he whispers something in this woman's ear. And it suddenly starts moving again, as if he just makes her on the spot discretionary. Yeah. You know that situation. I think others will as well. And it just started moving again, like our lives in that moment, or the future of our career in Portugal, as it were, was just dealt with by a guy's say-so with a whisper in the ear of this woman.
I'll tell you, the next time I'm on, I'll tell you the story where I thought I was going to get arrested at the water office.
Not surprised. Can't wait.
I did twice. I'll tell you the best one though. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You were saying
what can we do, Tig? What when people are worried, or if people have got a tangible situation, what can they do? That's where my mind goes with this.
There's only 2 things you can do, and that's either contact me or the embassy.
Right. Okay.
Because Seth, you cannot get an answer. You cannot get an answer, and certainly if you're in an emergency situation like we talked about last time, it's just horrendous. Yeah. There's and of course, bearing in mind that the embassies work 9-5 as well. Yes. Yeah. Of course. And it's when that sort of stuff happens, and I think it was Bobby, wasn't it? Oh, make phone calls, and I said, I did. Yeah. And even the embassy, one of the countries was Germany, and it's a very long story short. The German embassy was contacted. The British embassy in Germany was contacted, and they rang the airport, and it made no difference. Wow. Because the paperwork says, and that was the issue. Yeah. But can I just give one little, have I got time to give 2 little things that, I think that's absolutely. We only have you once a month, so please make the most of it. Okay. One of the questions that I'm asked quite regularly is that if you actually get a new passport, do you need to inform Seth? Really? And the answer is no. Oh, okay. Why would you need to do that? Oh, because the numbers changed. Because the numbers changed. So right. People think, oh my goodness, it's not correct. No, you don't. I mean, and I think, could you imagine if you did? Yes. Do you imagine how much work that would cause Seth? I mean, and you don't have to do that. And the other thing, I tell you what, we'll leave it, if it's okay, we'll leave it till next time. Yeah. Tig says, I love it. The other thing is talk about the ETIAS that's coming in. I've heard about this. This is is this a third-party validation for travel in Schengen? It's the third country visa that people will need that live in the UK to travel around the Schengen. Yes. Right. Okay. Yes. And who's doing this? Who is ETIAS? ETIAS, that's the name of the document that's going to come in.
Okay, and who's doing it?
It's the EU, isn't it? Because
Right.
it's the document to say that you're actually allowed in the Schengen area.
Right. Okay.
So, but we need to talk about that because, of course, you've got UK nationals living in the Schengen area already. What do they do?
Yeah, we do definitely need to talk about that.
Okay.
And I saw on, it might have even been in Portugal, was how some people are getting concerned now that when they arrive just for a holiday within their 90-day period in Portugal, they're going to have to prove that they have an outward ticket or an onward ticket or return ticket and sufficient funds to stay in Portugal. Has this come across your desk as well?
I don't think so. No, I haven't heard that. Simply because once you're in the Schengen area, it's freedom of movement, isn't it?
Yes.
So
Okay.
you don't. It's not like the States or Canada where you have to have a ticket to prove that you're leaving or whatever. It isn't like that. It's similar. The ETIAS is similar to what they have in the States, admittedly, but no, because it's the EU. You could fly from Germany, couldn't you, or France or Spain?
Yes.
As long as because it's 90 days within. That's the other thing that needs to be made very clear because people are still very confused about this. It's 90 days within the Schengen area, not per country.
Right. So if you come and stay in Portugal for 89 days and then you want to go visit Spain, you can only spend a day there in a 6-month period.
Also
you better be traveling on that day.
Yeah, and the other thing is that's what I was just going to go on to. Is people get really confused about the days. The thing is, as soon as you put your big toe on EU soil, Schengen area soil, that's day one.
Right. Can you try the Portuguese approach on this and say, but that is it working days or calendar days?
You can try all you like, but it won't work.
It's the day your toe touches for the ground. That's it.
With appeals, they say, yeah, it's not calendar days, it's business days. So we've actually got much longer to sort that out.
But people actually get that and I understand sort of the mentality of it, but people say, well, I'm going on holiday to Portugal for 2 weeks. Therefore, I've only spent 14 days there. No, you haven't, because you just traveled all the way through France and then you went into Spain and then you came here. So you're in the Schengen area. So those 3 days you spent traveling and 3 days, another 6 days.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you for being here today, Tig. We've got a few comments.
And you have to be out by the 90th day. It's not like, oh, I can leave on the 90th day. You have to be gone by the 90th day.
Well, it's 90 days. So you sort of like, you have to make sure on the 90th you're out. Yes, because you can't go over to midnight. You can't go 1 minute past midnight.
Flight delay. Oops.
Oh, my word.
Past midnight.
Okay.
And the other thing, very quickly, that I'll quickly say is, please, people, do not mess about with this. This is very serious stuff. If you overstay, it isn't just, and I think did I mention this before? Can't remember, about the penalties that if you overstay.
What happens?
Obviously not. I have, off the top of my head, an example. Okay, people, because they're loaded, I wish I was, I'm not, but there you go, have said to me, well, what's the fine? And I'm going like, you're not quite getting this. And it's because, yes, you'll get fined, and you'll get fined a lot of money. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not talking like 100 euros here. You're talking over 1,000 euros, whatever. For a lot of people, but that's not the worst part. It really, really isn't. Getting the fine is not an issue because you can borrow it or whatever. The issue is that then what happens is you're then put on a plane. So, say you're leaving Faro and you've overstayed, you've been here 100 days, you've overstayed. They'll stick you on a plane. But what they then do is they then enter you into their system, the Schengen area system, which name again has evaded me, but their SIS or something. Anyway, something like that. And then what actually happens is you're banned from the Schengen area for at least 6 months. Okay. Right. But that again isn't the worst of it. because you've actually had a ban, therefore you're seen as somebody who isn't trustworthy. When you then want to, after the 6 months, want to fly back into the Schengen area or drive back in, it's totally up to the country that you then enter in through whether or not they'll let you in, because you're not trustworthy to not overstay again. So they can quite legitimately say, no, sorry, you're not coming in.
Yeah.
Even if you have all the paperwork you need because you're in the system.
It's like, isn't it? It's like going for a job, you know, as a bank teller, and you've got a previous conviction for stealing.
Yes. Okay, well, you've cheered me right up this morning, Tig. Always
I've made you really happy now, haven't I?
It's great. No, don't go just yet, because we have a few comments to share.
Okay.
If you can stick around for a bit longer, both you and James, because I'm going to go to James for a final thought. My go-to with this is, what can you do? It's that blokey fix it kind of mentality, rather than just listening and saying that's terrible, which it is. I'm going straight to like, what can we do to fix this? And it's work in progress, clearly. Tig, I'm just down the road from you in Raposeira. Had a lovely few meals in Sagres this weekend. The Portugal de Preto was off the chart on a positive note. Gary's finally found, this is not connected, I don't think anyway, unless there's a Schengen rule against this. I finally found my way into the pool in a scene reminiscent of an African wildlife documentary. I find around dusk the water is nice, even though I swim like a bag of cement. Well, good for you. I think this is tongue-in-cheek. Brexit, real winner. Okay, so the Portuguese government isn't perfect, right? It's true, and it's all relative. We do have to say that, because we can comment here or add this little a further gong for Portugal here that just came in over the weekend. Best country to retire to, with a score of 7.83 out of 10. I think probably the 2.17 is all to do with Seth. It's not 10 out of 10, maybe there, from what was being said this morning. Further comments coming in. There's a bit of to-ing and fro-ing about inflation and Brexit. We're probably best not to go into that right now. I think Gary said, at least you haven't had your bank account frozen, or wait until
that's Nigel Farage, isn't it? Is he referring to Nigel Farage?
He has been debanked or debonked or something like that. However, yes, it's happened to Gemini. My account is shut down because it was a joint account, and because William is deceased, the bills are not paid. There is money in the account. Falling foul again there, Gemini, on the Portuguese bureaucracy. And there is a hack. I mean, I'm sorry to put it like this, but it would be too late for you to do this, Gemini. But to stop other people getting in this situation, there is a way around this that I have heard, where people are locked out of joint accounts in this way, Gemini. But that is an awful situation you find yourself in. And if you need any help from our community, Expats Portugal community, do from wherever you can get the help from. I hope you ask if you are struggling with that. You could have Farage in Faro. That would be ironic. That's made Tig wince there. Does any country do immigration well? I've heard horror stories in the US as well, and that's what I'm saying. It is relative, but that doesn't make it.
It is relative, and I understand that. I think possibly just because I've just dealt with the worst of the worst continually for years.
Of course.
And I say that my viewpoint is probably a little bit skewed because of that. I also know my viewpoint is also very skewed. I hate being lied to. Absolutely despise being, and I've been lied to by Seth for years and years and years. And not when you've got people crying on the phone, because they're in such a desperate state. No, I can't.
Thank you for being motivated in this way, Tig, and for helping people who find
You're welcome.
And it is relative, and it's horrible when it's you it's happening to, of course. That's always how it works, isn't it, with things in life. I'd rather hear about bureaucratic baloney complaints than tragic crime, political scandals, and climate-related tragedies that plunge North American news. Well, wait till you've got a better grasp of the language, Suze. Only kidding. I get your point there. Portugal loves a date on things. They are a real stickler for the date and the stamp as well. I love the fact that at least 2 departments we have been told by bureaucracy to lie about the gate on our forms. The date maybe in our area, it all depends on who had given the workers cheese and wine. Scandalous suggestion there, which I'm quickly distancing myself from. This is good advice, isn't it? And I think it refers to the law of three that Lord Gilchrist was talking about, not a real lord. If the US, if you call a company and someone has ridiculous requirements, you just keep calling until you get a reasonable person. Law of averages states that will happen at some point. Copies of A4 documents in triplicate signed and witnessed by both great-grandparents and a swab of their DNA if possible as well. Get a sack truck and take the filing cabinet with you. That's always good advice. Yeah, good ideas, says Squire of the Shires this morning.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Seth that was a problem for Lord Gilchrist. It was finances. Some people are going to have a great experience in one department and a terrible in the other. Best case scenario, you're going to have a great experience in all of them. I wish for that for you.
It totally depends, as everybody's saying, on who you get. And I mean, I can't absolutely hand on heart say that the experiences I've personally had and friends have had at the Loja de Cidadão in Lagos, fabulous.
Yeah. And we all have our favorite experiences as well, don't we?
Yeah. And I mean, I've walked in there and the staff, they've been fabulous. And but it's like everything, isn't it? If it's run well, it's run well.
And you don't notice. That's right.
And you don't notice. But no,
there is an app that tracks your Schengen days. I wonder who.
Yes, I have to say there are many apps, but be careful with them. Some get it wrong.
And some, they say, are connected directly to the World Economic Foundation database. Only joking. I'm a real lord. He is a real lord. You say that, Lord Gilchrist. Eat, all rise, eat well, drink wine, don't rush, and swim at dusk. There's my advice, which I think is a good advice to stop for the time being. Apart from last words from you both, I'll come to you as an and finally, James, in just a moment, because I'm sure you'll have a mindful tip or two on how to deal with this when it's all getting to you. But Tig, your last words, please.
Last words, be patient.
James? How do we be patient, James?
That was 2 words, though. So
sorry. You did say words. You said last words.
Right. Words. Oh, I missed the yes. I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just reminded kind of where I came in with this notion of privilege. Many of our complaints are complaints from a position of privilege, and like this shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be treated this way or whatever. In those cases, I think it's really important that we remind ourselves of this, take a deep breath, and as Tig says, be patient. Now, in Tig's case, many of these people are in what feels like, and often are, life and death kind of situation. So it's a lot tougher. In my situation, the license, that was just a function of convenience. It's like if I got it or didn't get it, it really didn't matter that much, except that I couldn't drive, which is one thing I wanted to be able to do to travel. So be mindful of your position, be mindful of your complaining, and find gratitude to replace it if it's reducing the quality of your life experience. We don't need to suffer with our complaints. We can choose differently.
And I think one of the other things and this is just on a personal note for me that has helped me, is that, say, for instance, as we often do here, we're going out to try and achieve one thing that day with bureaucracy. Okay, so you put it in your diary, right, I'm going to do that today. So you go, and for me, what's really helped is, right, okay, this is what I said I'm going to try and achieve today. I have nothing else to do, so it doesn't matter. So you just sit there and the time. And I promise I will tell you the story about the water office. I promise. But I nearly got arrested. I thought I was going to get arrested. I really did.
Okay. Well, that's when Tig comes back. And if you see the hashtag campaign, the pens, the t-shirts, hashtag Tig says, her influence is spreading deeper, and Seth are quaking even more when they think of her. The other option, of course, is to drink wine, which you can do with us tonight on the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club, the Battle of the Biológicos Brancos, 2 bio whites that we're trying tonight in the hands of Linda and Gary Austin, 8 p.m. this evening. Looking forward to that. We can distract ourselves for a little bit with some biological branco, Portuguese style. And finally, honestly, we will leave it here now. And I just want to remind you of the Learn About Portugal quiz question for today, which is about the travel industry. And Lagos Camera, shout out to Lagos Camera from Capricorn Chris, by the way. This question then, today's Learn About Portugal quiz question. In the hotel industry, which is estimated at 4.2 billion euros for Portugal in this year. Our question is today, how many hotels are there in Portugal who are generating that income and putting the country 9th out of 27 in Europe? UK not included in that anymore. So I should have put EU, not Europe. Please add your answer below. Is it 457 hotels in Portugal? Is it 4,570? Or is it 45,700 hotels here in Portugal? Tig, thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to seeing you again already and hearing about how you thought you were going to get arrested in the water offices. And Mindful Migration Monday man himself, James, thank you too. Take care,
Get a Tig Says t-shirt.
Get a Tig Says t-shirt, and we'll see you on the first Monday of next month. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. See you at the Wine Club. Bye for now. Catch up.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.